Hello, hello, hello. So, my name is oliviabusby. I probably didn't need to say my last name, but my name's Olivia. I'm a oracle, creative doula, tarot and oracle card reader, a channeler, an uncontrollable creator, and I'm just like real pumped for this reading right now. I'm picking the cards. I was doing it off camera. I was gonna do it off camera, but then I just got excited and I started talking to myself. So I was like, let's share it with the people. But yeah, I'm just really excited because I just love, one thing I said differently in my kind of like initiating prayer was, let's, give some light to the dark and some dark to the light, some balance. And then there's the ship card, which is a lot of like, there's a lot of movement and change happening. Yeah, there's a lot of like movement and change happening. And my daily wave from yesterday was about the creative process, and basically it was me a lot of the time talking about my creative process in starting this channel and giving it as sort of as like a case study or example to how you can kind of get not stuck, but like part of the process is a sort of stuckness and like overthinking and being in the wilderness and seemingly like suffering to get information and go through experiences so that you can break down your ego so that you can then come out of the wilderness and come out of darkness and put your ego in service to the collective. So that was yesterday's daily wave. And these are all very timeless because, like I was saying in the video, I like to focus on processes. So I'm not necessarily going to be like, this is what's happening this week, but it's just processes. So if at any moment, any of these videos like are watched, I hope that my intention is that they can be watched anytime because these are like archetypal processes and yeah, but okay, so I didn't even like really look at the like books for the oracle cards, but what I'm getting from this reading is lots and lots of change, movement, and shifts. I'm just getting pumped. The song that's been stuck in my head since I got home and or walked inside and was like preparing for this reading was, what's the song called? Steve Lacy. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like, if I could travel through time, I think I could tell myself from the past, you'll be fine. So it was that song. And then the that part was just stuck in my head the whole time. Let me look it up. I could travel through time. Okay. So it's Steve Lacy, Only If. The song Only If by Steve Lacy. It says, if I could travel through time, I think I would tell myself from the past, you'll be fine. But what you don't know is the fun part of passion. And it's the place where I think all the fun begins. What you don't see is what you believe, but to be is the place where the angels dance. What you don't hear is the voice of fear when you get past that is when your life appears. What you don't touch is what you won't clutch, but you'll latch on tight when the coast is clear. So yeah. But that song's been stuck in my head, but I don't know all the other lyrics. I just know the first chorus. Let me finish this. I don't want to be on here like shuffling a bunch, but okay. This is probably way too many cards than I need, but I'll just talk. So the oracle cards we start with is the house. This is my intentions with these daily waves is first and foremost, like my intention is to just provide food for thought, something to talk about, something that maybe is good for the people to hear. So that's my first intention, I guess. But my ultimate intention is, like I was saying in the first one, is just the creative process of speaking and sharing passion, like sharing things that I'm like passionate and talking about, and just being kind of like consistent in my posting and speaking and sharing. So if you get something out of it, love it. And please, like, share, subscribe, book a reading with me. That information is in the description box. It's on my Instagram, both of them. It'll show like prices and all that good stuff. But that's where you can book a reading with me, and my email. And that's all in the description. So if you get something out of it, great. But if not, then I'm gonna just enjoy myself. The first card is from Grandma Baby's black gold Lenormand deck, and it's the house, and it shows it's a Baptist church where these people are sitting in the Baptist church, and the heart is on there's a king of heart, and it's on the like pastor's face is a heart, and it says he is risen. I guess that's relevant. It says its foundations. The house warns of where we built on top of weak foundations and left others out in the cold. And all that you're working to create and build, consider who you're building it for, at whose expense. Consider the values and principles your life is built on. Will they stand up to the test of time? Sometimes the best thing you can do is just let things fall apart. Instead of working so hard to hold a broken thing together, you have the chance to start over better. And that was definitely energy I was getting with this reading, with several of the cards. Just a lot of movement. And one part of being a creative doula and the creative process is building things, putting things together, the accumulation of energy that makes something. But then another part of the creative process that is simultaneously happening is that when you put in energy to create something, you are also putting in energy to destroy something. And that simultaneously happens. And sometimes there's a process of needing to, like, for example, it could be working with an organization where I think Adrienne Marie Brown was talking about this on I think she was talking to Krista Tippett on Being, but like knowing when an organization needs to die, if it's not serving the people in the right way, it needs to die. It needs to transform possibly into something else that actually helps the community. Or, even if you're painting, you're destroying a blank canvas. A canvas is blank, and you paint on it, and then you destroyed this blank canvas, and it can be an important part of the creative process at some point to come make something that you love and put time and energy into, and then just destroy it or paint over it or erase it or throw it away. And I think I like the things that will stand up to the test of time. Um, is sort of the one. It's sort of like the sacredness of the creative process. More so what stands up to the test of time than the actual thing that's being created. Um, I guess what I'm thinking about is I just came back from the museum, and this is probably like way off topic, and I'm probably going to be talking a lot in this video, but I just came back from this is just making me think of coming back from the museum, and there's a certain point when I'm looking at all of these like ancient and like very old artifacts that were at some point not even just art, because a lot of like ancient artifacts weren't just art, they had purposes. They had a purpose or a function, so they could be beautiful and have artistic, attributes, but they were useful, they were spiritual, they had a function to them. And so when we put them in a museum, it's just, I guess, thinking about like, what does that do to the artifact? And yes, there's like education around it and all of that, but consider the values and principles your life is built on, especially thinking about museums and like how a lot of the stuff is stolen, traded, and yeah, it's we put up these like priceless pieces of these like Central American, oceanic, African art, but then the reality of the people today we don't give a fuck about. So yeah, the house warns of where we built on top of weak foundation and left others out in the cold. So yeah, and that also, I guess, is thinking about like with museums and all that you're working to create and build, consider who you're building it for. So um so yeah, take what you need from that thought. But it was just I just was thinking about that today with museums and like the creative process. When you create something that has function for the people, um at what point, if you create something that has a function for the people, even though it may be art or aesthetically pleasing, or it holds some meaning at a certain point, if it no longer has a function for the people that it was intended to have a function for, sometimes just let it die. The next card is the Moon card. I like this card. I like his face, his facial expression. In our ancestors' dreams, families were reunited, justice was served, Black folks were saved, joy was abundant. We aren't yet living in the world they imagined for us, but we are closer because of their imagining, and we draw it closer still by taking the time to dream it. Do you have dream rituals, a dream journal that you keep? Do you call on ancestors to assist you in utilizing dream space for healing and manifesting? Do you know herbalists who can help to maximize your ability to recall dreams or relax more easily into a dream state through use of specific plants? Are you regularly escaping boundaries of this reality into one where we can all be free? And that matches the idea of the house. When you're building the foundation has to be strong enough, and this foundation has to be strong enough and be able to support a dream, that support the intentions of the dream, and the dream of freedom and liberation. And what this next card is the Sacred Revolution. And so if you if you have, this is also making me think like Sacred Revolution, the house and the moon, is making me think about like a lot. This is making me think of like I don't know. The museum visit was interesting in thinking about global, like what are the artifacts that, thinking about museums and what was being put in museums from like years ago, these like ancient artifacts and their purposes, and like what would be put in museums for us, like of us today. That and I guess it's contemporary art, but it has me thinking about the foundations of organizations, the foundations of communities, the foundations of just anything that you are creating and putting out there. And if you have this dream of freedom, of liberation, one, like checking in on what foundations it's laid on, especially when you think about intersected communities. If the foundation of your dream is still laid in patriarchy, um, or the centralization of patriarchy and capitalism, then is it actually like, who is it going to be? Who's the dream going to be like benefiting in a way? Um, what, like, looking out into like what are we like dreaming about? And in those dreams, like what are we dreaming about? And in having those dreams, what needs to be kind of like destroyed and shifted? Let me keep going. The next card is Goddess Kali and Black Obsidian, Sacred Revolution. This card got me pumped. Goddess Kali and Black Obsidian. Um, yeah. Sacred Revolution. We bring you the empowerment of Sacred Revolution. Revolution comes when a cycle of authority or power is ending. It has become inadequate for the task of leadership now required, and a new order must be established in its place. It is not simply a chapter within a book drawing to a close, but an entirely new book, perhaps an entirely new genre, opening up according to divine will unfolding. In such cases, subtle change is not going to cut it. You need a radical action to bring about the new order. That new order may be in your world or in your own being. When revolution is sacred, the new order will be that which allows you to become more of yourself to successfully attain your spiritual goals. Kali is a goddess not known for her subtlety. She is called on in times of war when demons seem to be getting the upper hand. She is the only warrior determined and vicious enough to destroy the destroyers. She is unstoppable except for when divine consciousness tells her that her job is done. Her appearance marks a time of sacred revolution that cannot be stopped until it has come to successful completion. So this is making me think about, like, I just finished reading Joseph Campbell's The Power of Myth, and there's a part where they talk about, like, if you have one society that, because war is always a reality, but if you have one society that they have a hero that goes out and they fight for this group and community, but the group and community that they're fighting against, they're actually not seeing, they're not going to see them as a hero, they're going to see them as like a enemy or whatever. And so it's making me think of questions of, like, the foundations being laid for the dreams of, you know, thinking about, like, I am my ancestors' dream. What were they dreaming about? What were, like, for Alexis Pauline Gumb's book, her book Dub, like, the the beings that dreamed of the ocean, what are their dreams for us? Like, what are the dreams of these like very ancient dreams, these very, like, sacred dreams, these dreams that, how do we include the whole globe in our dreams, and what are the foundations of that? um so instead of it being like, also a conversation I was having with friends, instead of it thinking like, how can the US and our communities in the US flourish, and what stakes or what foundations are we laying so that the US can be happy, healthy, and good? And how does that, you know, leave someone else in danger, some other community in danger? And if we are to think globally and and think of a whole in the way that we kind of haven't had to in other human, like, times, because of the way that we're all connected through, like, COVID showed how connected we are, global travel, global trade, and how quickly it can happen, how quickly something on the other side of the world can affect, like Pakistan, like becoming like large parts of Pakistan becoming like underwater, and the floods and all of that are happening in Puerto Rico, and all of these, like, does that all of these, like, crisis and global and national disasters are going to shift the planet. People are going to have to relocate and move. There's going to be, like, refugees everywhere. There's going to be people just shifting all around the world. And so, how do our views of community care and our foundation of what um, we're dreaming for the community, how does that community just become like the entire world? And what does it look like for us to lay foundations and dream about um, the safety of the entire world and the planets? And that's making me think of the next three cards that I got was it was the sun, the ship, and mice, which is making me think of, like, what I was just saying, what the climate changing, the climate, these larger forces of floods and hurricanes and government instability that doesn't protect people, or government stability in their own power that is made to not protect people. And then people have to, the shifts and the movements that's going to happen, and the sort of, like, damages done. Mice is about damages, but it also makes me think of, like, people's attitudes towards refugees is kind of like they're like dirty mice that are need to be exterminated or they're in the way or something like that. So yeah, and thinking about that's not something that we can just get away from. And so how are our dreams going to be founded in principles and like values and an image for like all of us? And yeah, this sacred revolution, it's not going to be, when I prepared to like wrap my mind around what revolution on the ground would actually look like, it would look like destruction. It would look like death, mass death. It would look like inconvenience. It would look like death and illness and global illness and pandemics, and it would look like crisis, because the first step to creation, or the simultaneous step to creation, is destruction. And so I had to really wrap my head around, like, we think of revolution and freedom as these like really pretty and like utopic um, images and dreams, but that comes much later, after first the need to destroy the foundations that are already placed. And so it's gonna look like Kali, like, destruction. Um, she is vicious enough to destroy the destroyers. The nature of revolution is the overthrowing of an existing hierarchy of control to replace it with a new one. Usually, there's a philosophical and political purpose behind the process, and that often involves forcibly overcoming an exploitative abuse of power by those in positions of authority. However, revolution without a sacred component to it won't necessarily result in transformation or healing. There may be a change. Different political parties could come to power, for example, but often enough it will be the case of the same problems with the different perpetrators. And that's making me think about what we think of as change now. A lot of times when people think of like liberal change, they're like, go out and vote, or we just need to vote in the right person. We're so concerned with making sure it's Biden and not Trump. And on levels, yeah, that's maybe important, but with a sort of like sacred revolution that this card is talking about, there's not necessarily mass amounts of like transformation and healing with Trump versus Biden. Like, the vote is a very small change. With this like sacred revolution, it's like dreaming of change that actually deeply transforms and heals people, and like ruptures the foundation of something that has too much power, um and is not transforming or healing people. It's not like superficial change. Change takes courage. We have to be willing to let go of what we have known and bear uncertainty whilst we explore new possibilities and eventually evolve into a new way of being. And I think right now, in a long term position, now is the time for this like moon energy of like dreaming. And it doesn't have to be like dreaming of, because it is like a sacred thing. It's like an as above, so below thing. Like, it can start on the ground. It can start with these small damages that are overlooked by community, hinting at like the mouse card. It can start with like these small little things that we've overlooked. Like the moon card says, do you have access to herbalism? Do you have access to your own food? Do you have access to clean water? Do you know the people in your community and the people that you can call in order to take care of something for you, to take care of your kids, to, like, it's the the small immediate dreams of one, starting in your own subconscious space. Like, are you in alignment with the dream that you have for how community lives and operates? Then are you because everything is kind of internal outward. That's where like the sacred change comes from. It's an internal outward. And so first it's looking at what are you dreaming about in terms of these big dreams for new foundations. What are you dreaming about? Who's included in that dream of freedom and liberation? Who's missing? How can you first like yourself embody that that dream? How can you introduce something, share something, or implement something in your own family, in your own friend group, in your own jobs, workplace, in your own community, in your own social media network, in your own like immediate community? How are you like putting into that dream? And if people pay attention to that, and you have a bunch of people kind of like paying attention to that like sacred revolution kind of happens. There's the Quietest Revolution is a podcast, or I think it's not the podcast, but it's the Instagram for Amber Khan, and she talks about the story behind it but behind the Quietest Revolution came from like these monkeys, the specific monkey that started doing something different. Let's say it was like something like peeling. I don't remember exactly what it was, but let's say before the monkey ate something, it peeled off sides of it peeled something before it ate. All of a sudden, it decided to peel the banana instead of just eating it, or something like that. Don't take it word for word, but and so this one monkey starts doing it. Then these group of monkeys in this zoo starts doing it. Then all these monkeys in this zoo start doing it. Then the zoo starts getting calls from monkeys and from people from other zoos around about this same type of monkey that starts like doing this thing, and then calls from around the region and then the country and then calls all around the world that these monkeys are now doing this really weird thing that they never did before, and now they're all doing it, and they're doing it across the globe, this specific species of monkey. And so that is like the sacred revolution, and the quietest revolution starts from this collective like subconscious, and sharing this in this collective subconscious and this collective dream. And it's like I'm thinking of like I'm getting like if your dream is aligned to the whole collective subconscious, then more people might pick up on it, and it becomes more of a collective subconscious, more of a collective dream. And the more people, there's just, you can see it on social media, so many different people in different pockets talking about things. And now all these other people are talking about things, and it spreads in the collective subconscious. And so, but if you're yeah. Okay. um so yeah, it's just the little destructions. And another thing that Amber Khan, I listen to her a lot. Another thing that she was talking about was like a small thing of destruction can be like a small ritual of destruction can be creating something and destroying it, painting something and painting over it, or washing your hands, destroying like skin cells. Just these little ways that we destroy. It could be, and if you're in a relationship and there's this like resentment in between two people, like either destroying the silence or destroying the unhealthy connection, just like these little bouts of destruction that with the intention of transformation and healing. It says, even with that willingness, there are times when a pattern of the past has become so lodged in the psyche that gentle evolution is not possible. You could imagine it like a person screaming in unnecessary panic. You may try talking to them in soothing tones, but if they're about to jump in a car and drive away, putting themselves and others in mortal danger, then a sharp slap might be in order to snap them out of hysteria and into the present moment. It's extreme, but it's helpful and necessary. And I think that made me think about like being cautious about people who in very high stakes time want to constantly, in high stakes and high harmful times, want to constantly urge for patience, or not even patience, but like want to urge for like, you know, not taking too drastic measures, like, liberals who are like, oh yes, we need to do this and this is important, but for now just go and vote, because voting is a small step towards victory. Kali, this is not a reading about, I guess, in some way those like small drastic changes within yourself kind of reverberate outwards. And so if you need to take this on a like, because as one individual we can't necessarily do big Kali destruction, but in like working with that energy, it can start with yourself and then move into relationships and then maybe into community saying that thing, or but when on a larger scale, when we need to look at revolution, it can't be like small patching things up. It's like a drastic destroy the foundation of the house. It says she may knock the control freak dominating your mind on the head and set up her own temporary divine dictatorship, where she simply repeats, love yourself and let go, until you do just that. So this is the kind of the energy that I'm getting. What else? So we have these other cards. Let me see. You got the Two of Staffs reversed, Little Staff reversed, Young Staff, and the Death. So this is just giving like the Two of Staffs again, like I was saying in the last. This came up in the last yesterday's daily wave, and I just went to the museum today, so I got to actually see like mask and masquerade and the like divine mask that these people would put on to kind of transform their own relationship to the divine and their own position with the divine, almost kind of taking on the divine or a particular deity. And like what I was just reading, Kali taking you over to say, this is like, it feels like Kali taking over right now to say like, this has just been an accumulation of like energy that I've been feeling and the anger in the air of like people being fed up with certain things. And yeah, it's like Kali's moving through and shining a light on all the movement that needs to happen, that to like get our asses moving and like make drastic changes. So this card, the Two of Staffs, is reversed. Um, okay, yeah, and it's indecision. So again, if you have a clear dream, if you have a clear vision of what, and a clear like feeling of a clear feeling of that vision, a clear knowing of that vision, a clear dream of that, a clear dream, a clear vision of what liberation and in this dream of collective liberation can look like. Then and if you understand like the foundation of that dream, not necessarily the details of what the political structure is going to look like, or none of that, like that's not, but you're thinking about like the card said, like, do you know an herbalist? Do you know how to sanitize water? Do you know who in around you knows certain things that can help in a time of like crisis, or if things hit the fan? Because if you're shaking the foundation of a political structure or a group of power, they're not going to be able to give you the same conveniences that you had before. So you may not have clean water, and we've seen that in the US multiple times in multiple spaces. Clean water is no longer accessible, and um, in certain places for certain times. And so if you have this like foundational under like vision of what freedom and liberation looks like, and for me that is always centered in the earth and the elements. Like, it doesn't fucking matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. It doesn't matter if all the political stuff doesn't matter if you and the people around you cannot drink water. The immediate forms of liberation is around, like, you can say, oh, you know what I mean, like we can say that, oh, the politics aren't this and this and that, and get into the details, but at the end of the day, do these people have water? Do these people have access to food? Are these people housed? Are they safe? Like, these basic human needs are what the foundation of liberation should look like, because you can't go without them. You can't, nothing on this planet can go without water, without clean air, without some form of safety from the elements, um, and disaster, and strong like foundational community. And so when you're clear in that vision, there is, and the Two of Staffs is a card of vision. You stand on this divine, like, you stand in this with this mask on and on these stilts to be able to see and have a vision. So it's reversed because it's like, if you aren't clear on that vision, then of course you're going to be indecisive, and you don't have any confidence in your survival or the survival of those around you. And then you're hopped up on fear and panic. And like it said, Kali is going to come in and slap you in the face, which I think COVID was the beginning of a slap in the face. What do we actually know and care about when it comes to health on a global scale, and living in a global community? Then Lil Staff is just, Lil Staff is giving, because it's Lil Staff reversed to Young Staff, and I think Lil Staff is like, it's fire and earth, so it's like a orb of iron that you kind of, either way, I'm thinking like from Lil Staff to Young Staff is movement. From like the Lil Staff is kind of like the student, the seed planted, And young is movement. The young is movement. So little staff reverse is rash, egotistical, procrastination, lethargic, restriction. And so yeah, like I guess it goes to what I was saying. Like if this two of staffs is reversed and you're hopped up on fear and your root chakra, because this is like little staff, is red, like all this red is like, and the red and the yellow is like root, and if you're stuck in this like root and sacral and solar plexus, like lower chakra imbalance, where you're worried about and like fearful of like survival, and you don't have a clear like vision of what that looks like for you, and where to like make plans to get there, um then as we saw like with the pandemic, people get into panic mode, and they do become like angry and egoistic, and very like dominating, and I'm gonna do it my way. And if we don't know how to like be in community with other people, we get into our own vision of survival for just ourselves. And then young staff is a warrior, adventurous, ambitious, charisma, competitive. It's the air, the heat that rises above, the cool atmosphere below. Yeah, it says young staff encourages you to evaluate your development and where your life force is being directed. And so I guess like I was saying, it's having a vision for the fundamentals of like revolution and liberation in your communities, in your own subconscious, having this dream and this vision, and not being afraid of like not seeing drastic change in Kali level. Shiloh, stop. Shiloh. Not seeing like Kali level destruction and revolution as, and being in fear of it because it's unknown, but seeing it as an opportunity to become prepared for focusing in your life force on things that like truly bring safety and and community and liberation for the people around you. Um, and those things will always be true. Water, the elements, water, food, housing, um, good communication, being able to communicate with people around you, being able to live outside of yourself, but also have a clear sense of self. And then the last card was death, which, boom, there we go. And this makes me think of like the creator of this deck. This was the first card that she created for this deck, and it came to her in a dream. So, reminding me again of like dreams. Shiloh, stop it. Um, so yeah, this went way longer than I wanted it to, but daily wave, daily tsunami of 50 minutes. But thank y'all for sticking with me. If you did, and if you didn't, I guess you're not seeing this, but yeah, thanks for watching, checking in. Thanks for liking, subscribing, sharing, and yeah, listening.